Hey guys, welcome back to Combustion Junction and the CB360 build project. So in the last part, we went over the history of how I got the bike and started to look at some of the stuff that was on it, or more importantly, that wasn't on it. And I just wanted to give you guys sort of, you know, the lay of the land in terms of where I'm going to be approaching things from. So really and truly, my goal on this bike, before I do anything else, is to really get it running on some level. The irony of that is that every other project I've ever worked on, I think getting it running was last, either because the engine was out, or it was in pieces, or I was waiting for something else, or whatever. Anyway, this one I want to get running first. And know that it's okay, because if the engine really is a dud, I'm going to seriously rethink my plans on what I'm going to do with this bike. So obviously in the last one, I'll link the episode up here if you haven't seen it. We started to get in the wiring a little bit. You know, there was all kinds of little head scratchers that I had to get past. The biggest thing I found missing was the starter solenoid. So I've got that in place. And I've managed to troubleshoot the points a little bit. I haven't really checked for spark, but I know there's continuity there. Condition of the condensers and the coils, you know, remains to be seen. Yeah, so the goal today is get a battery on it, see if we can't get the starter turning over, and then from there move on and see if we can't get spark, and who knows, we'll go from there. So let's get set up for that. Okay, so battery's hooked up, negative, positive, very basic. Negative goes to the frame, positive comes into the solenoid. Like I said, the wiring on the solenoid, I'm not using the switch, which is broken anyway, but those are the switch wires. So instead what I've done is the green, I'm just using a clip and bringing that and connecting that right to ground. So all I have to do is touch this guy to my battery hot to activate the starter solenoid. So that's what's going on there. My key is hooked up, and what I've done is actually, I'm pretty sure this was from the CJ360 or another bike. I've just plugged this into the headlight harness just so when I do key on, and you can see it here, I've got my neutral switch. So I know that I have power running through the system. I've connected as many of the connections to the hand controls as possible. Not that I need them. Really, the only real critical one is the engine kill switch, which is basically sends a positive signal to the coil. So if that's not hooked up, it's not a ground lift, it's actually a positive on signal. So that got me in a place where I was able to short out the solenoid and turn over the motor and check for spark. Let me show you what happens when I do that. So my starter clutch in here seems to be failing. Now, if you know Cody over at TheMotorcycleMD, he just, and this was actually how I was able to troubleshoot it so fast, he just did a video, I think 2 months ago, on troubleshooting this and rebuilding it. I'll put a link to that video right here because he does an excellent job of it, of explaining how it works and everything else. And he actually did it on a CL360, which is same engine, scrambler. You know, I want to deal with this before, because when it does engage, it seems to turn the engine pretty good. So I don't have any of the parts on order for it or anything like that, because it's something I've just discovered, but it's easy enough for me to get this cover off, and maybe I might just be able to, you know, grease the parts or something. Maybe they're just stuck from sitting for so long. So let me get it apart. At the very least, I can see if things are mushroomed or if they're seizing, or if there might be a way that I can temporarily make it work a little bit better. So let's get the cover off, and but even before that, this is
Something I didn't mention before is that the shift lever is actually welded on. I guess the screw broke off and this was the fix. So before I get this off, I got to get that off and grind this, and hopefully there's enough meat left to do it up properly when it's done. So you can see what kind of muck is in there. Those bolts, there was one bolt missing down here. The other three, I'm actually surprised that I was able to break them and take them out, because those are almost completely stripped. I'm definitely going to have to replace those. And I don't know if you noticed, it is completely smooth inside. There's nothing in there to grab at all. There's a lot of the front missing. There are splines on the back, so I'm going to see if I can't find another shift lever that may work, that I could just bolt on. But obviously with that welded on and the state of those bolts, and you know, looking at the absolute mess that is in here, this is just gross. And there was nuts and everything else. This has been a while since this has been off, so I'm actually surprised it came off that easily, but I'm happy for it. These guys have already pounded, so they're all loose. One was stuck, I had to drill it out. I'm gonna replace all these anyway because they're in terrible shape. I read this somewhere that you can use a axle from the same bike and it fits the threads of the hub. This is the axle from the parts bike. So in here is where the three rollers exist. These three rollers, they're in here, and then inside there's a little plunger with a spring. When it turns in the right direction, those three rollers come out, lock this on, and engage the starter. So far, I found this little guy in there just all by itself. In this one, I see a pretty destroyed, whoa, there it goes. A pretty destroyed spring, I think. And I didn't find the plunger that went over top of that. So that's one of them. And then maybe that goes with that piece of metal. The second one looks more promising. Actually, the third one looks the most promising. Hang on. That's what it's supposed to look like, the spring inside of that guy. And that part gets pushed out. Got a bent spring and a piece of metal, 3 of the rollers, one complete setup with, it looks like to be a very much shorter spring. And the third one is stuck in there. So on all 3 fronts, there's very good reason why this doesn't work. Now I should be able to take these off too. Oh, and they're all loose. I actually, if you tune into Cody's rebuild on this, he actually said that these will sometimes loosen up, and that might actually be the reason why the whole mechanism fails to begin with, is because this actually moves around and you don't get a good positive grab. And this should come out. Yeah, so that's the second one with a little spring. So 2 work, but they don't really have enough force to push on the yeah, they're really quite damaged. And actually looking down in that third one, I think the remainder of that piece, I think it broke off and got stuck in there. There it is. That part goes with that, and there's supposed to be an end on that. I have all 3 springs, and this one has definitely seen better days. Well, they've all seen better days, really. And then the only thing that seemed to be in good shape, or okay shape, are the rollers. There doesn't seem to be any pitting on those guys.
A little bit disappointing. I was hoping that there wasn't going to be as much damage on that. I'd be able to just get things kind of working enough to help me out. But I have read that if you keep you keep trying to engage the starter with those bits out, you can do more damage than good. The funny thing about all this starter issue is that the starter button was gone, the solenoid was gone, the wire that ran to the starter was gone. It just seems a little too convenient that the starter clutch is really broken, like really broken. So I think that at some point in the bike's past, the starter was given up on. So hopefully that stuff doesn't take a long time to get, and we can get this back together and yeah, try for spark and see if we can't bring this bike back to life. As always, guys, like, share, subscribe, leave a comment. Love getting the comments down below. It's awesome that I've been helping out some of you guys with your builds and getting some of you inspired. Keep it coming. Love hearing about it. But yeah, like I said, like, subscribe, share, and we will see you real soon. Cheers.